There we go. Each of you guys grab a bucket. Okay, William. Go on that side right there, bro. You go on that side, William. Y'all hang out. Hey, Matt, stop. You're over here. Matt, you're right here. Ian. Pay attention, bro. You're right here. Hold on real quick. Hey, tonight we're giving again. Every night every Wednesday night we do offering. We take up money for Speed the Light. Speed the Light's a ministry that helps missionaries in foreign countries get vehicles or some sort of transportation to help them get to the people that they're trying to minister to. And so that's who we send our money to. That money doesn't come to me. I don't put it in my pocket and go buy Chick-fil-A afterwards. It goes to help out missionaries in need. So I'm going to pray real quick, and then you guys, you pass the buckets around. We'll take up the offering. Bow your heads, close your eyes. God, thank you so much for all you do for us. I pray that you would bless this offering and that it would go to a missionary that is in great need of transportation to the people you have called them to minister to. In your name I pray. Amen. Hey, while they're passing the buckets around, I got a couple of quick announcements. Hey, how many of you guys have the Bible app? Yeah. Go ahead and pull that app up. Hey, David, will you put up this screen right here? That there he is. All right, so look, if you have the Bible app, and if you don't have the Bible app, go to your app store and literally type Bible, and the application that is called Bible will come up. So, if you will, and then once you have it, if you'll go down to this bottom right section, I think it says, is it more? Okay. More, and then go to events, and then you're going to see United Student Ministries. And you're going to be able to follow along with my sermon notes tonight. Okay? And here's the cool thing, too. In the upper right-hand corner, you can save them. So you can save them if you want to go back and look later. You can there's actually in each section, each little part, you can add an additional note. So if you're like, what Pastor Luke said was bullcrap, you can write that down and save it and remind yourself of that. Also, how many high schoolers do I have in here? Wow, 4 of you guys? Well, I felt like I saw a few more of y'all. How many high schoolers are in here? Yes. Hey, tonight. So hey, after I get done with my sermon, you guys come and sign up for the high school small group that we're going to be having. It's going to be it's going to start February 9th, every Sunday night at my house. I'm sorry. Whoa. February 9th, every other Sunday night at my house. So we have a season of small groups that lasts 10 weeks, and we're going to meet. If we're meeting every other, that means we're meeting half. So we're going to meet 5 times. It's 5 Sunday nights out of the semester. Come to my house. If you feel like hey, I need to grow a little bit deeper with my faith, then that is the avenue that you need to go through, man. Next, so come see me after I get done preaching. Next thing is on February, what's the second February? Yeah, February 9th. Never mind. I was about to say, what's the second Sunday in February? February 9th, we're doing a church-wide fast. And I preached on fasting last year, and we had our own fasting guide. I'm not going to preach on fasting again, but we are going to provide a guide for y'all. So it's 21 days of fasting and prayer. And remember what fasting is. There's actually this verse in the Bible that says there's some things that can only happen through prayer and fasting. Fasting is mentioned several times in the Bible. And all it is sometimes we need to give up something and replace it with prayer. Some of you guys are going through some real junk. Maybe you're just like, hey, I just want to be closer. I want to be closer with God. I want to strengthen this relationship. I want God to be inside of me even more than He already is. I want to know that. I want to change. I want to transform. That happens through fasting, and so it just takes you every single day. It's not. I don't encourage giving up meals for teenagers. That's not something I do. But it's stuff that anyways, I'll have it available next Wednesday. I'm going to encourage all of you guys to do it because it's okay to give up something for God. It's okay to give up something for God, man. And we're a pretty spoiled society, and I think that fasting is a spiritual exercise. It's a spiritual exercise that helps you. It literally just transforms your soul to be more Christ-like. And so, anyways, we're going to be doing that next week. All right, so tonight, getting into the book of James, the book of Yamez. Yep. How many of you guys ever read the book of James before? Yep. The book of James, according to historians, is the oldest New Testament book written. It was written before the Gospels. James was the brother of Jesus, and he was a pretty important person in the early church. He was like a really important person. And when the Bible refers to James in other books, it actually calls him the Lord's brother. Can you imagine growing up with Jesus? That's your brother. You know what I mean? Like he's over there turning water into wine, and you're like, bro, who can keep up with that? How do you measure up with that? But James was a follower of his own brother, and he wrote this book. It's not long at all. It's 5 chapters. It's 5 very short chapters, but it is like some of the most practical, applicable information you can possibly have about being a Christian, about what does it mean to follow Christ. And we're going to get into that, and I just want to just a little bit of background, and then we'll like really get into it. And let me just preface this. There is actually a lot packed into this book. I am not going to hit every single point. We're going to draw over these next few weeks. We're going to draw out some ideas that we think that we just feel like are super important to present to you guys, and we're going to move from there. Okay. So James writes this book. He writes this book, and he doesn't write it. You know what's interesting? You know, we talk about Paul and the epistles, these that are letters to these churches. He doesn't write it to the churches. He in James in the very beginning he says he's writing this to the 12 tribes of Israel in dispersion. So this is what that means. There were Jews in this time who not necessarily abandoned the Jewish faith, but started becoming followers of Christ. And because of that, they had to go. They had to leave because of it was pretty tough for them. You know, when you at that time, when you completely abandon the faith of your family and the culture that you live in, people are going to reject you. So this is written to these people. And at the very, very beginning, after he says, hey, this is to all you Jews that are living out there who are spread across this world, it is okay to go through trials. Like from the very, very beginning, that's how he hits them. Because James is saying this, hey, this is to all you who have gone through a hard time because you're followers of Christ. Just know this. It's okay. It's okay to go through hard times. And so he starts off with this encouragement because he's like, hey, you're going to go through this hard stuff, but it's good because it's actually going to test you. It's actually going to bring out really good things inside of you. And so, but tonight, what I actually want to start on is in James 1, and we're going to start with verses 5 through 8. James 1, verses 5 through 8. And so if you can either follow along up there or you can follow along in the Bible app, okay? It says, if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and it will be given to him. But let him ask in faith with no doubting, for the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea that is driven and tossed by the wind. For that person must not suppose that he will receive anything from the Lord. He is a double-minded man, unstable in all his ways. All right, James. Really went in hard on us there, buddy. It's a little tough. He kind of comes at you pretty hard. He's like, hey, you want wisdom? Great. God will give it to you. You got doubt? You're going to, good luck. Good luck. It's going to be tough for you. It's going to be tough for you. But hey, let's just start with this. So like when we're seeking wisdom, I want you to put yourself in that position. So it's this idea it's basically this internal question. You're like, how should I handle this issue? It's kind of the first question. It's like this internal thing of how do I handle this? For some of you guys, you got the question of, where do I go to college? What career path? Should I pursue this relationship with this person, that person? And when we're looking for wisdom for our lives, we're usually asking it in a very practical way. Not like, what should I eat for dinner tonight? Should I think a ham sandwich or a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? God, what chips should I put with that? Should I do like French onion dip with those chips, or should I just do like some corn chips and like some salsa? God, I don't know. I'm gonna look for you. I'm gonna look to you for wisdom for this. No, that's not what it is. It's just this internal, God, I don't know what to do right now. And sometimes it's not just practical, right? Like sometimes we come to it for things, and we're going to get into this in a minute, like doubts. Like, I don't understand how to do this. God, how do I handle it? So it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing when you're faced with that situation. It's not a bad thing to not have it all figured out. Let me tell you, the pressure that you guys are under, and it's similar to what we've all, I think it probably transcends generations. I don't think this ever stops, but this idea, like, you have to have it all figured out. You got to figure it out. You don't know how to do this? What are you, dumb? What's wrong with you, idiot? Like, that's how I always felt about things. It was like, I don't know, should I, what kind of job should I pursue, or what college should I go to? What degree path should I choose? Okay, now it's like, and we're like, well, how do you not? You don't have it figured out yet. You don't have a whole plan made out for you. And sometimes we have that, like, we have that pressure. But let me tell you the thing. Here's the deal. It's okay to not know, because seeking wisdom is a sign of your faith. When you come up to you're going to have through the rest of your life, every month, week, day, hour, minute, second, there are things you do not know, and you're going to come up against those things, and you have a choice. Are you going to look to yourself and the world, or are you going to look to God? It's not bad to not have it all figured out. But what James is saying is, hey, you've got to take this thing to God. You don't know? That's okay. Think about the people he's talking to right now. He's talking to people who, like, lived around Jesus' time. Christianity isn't like how it is now, where you guys got a church on every single corner that you can go to, and it's just gluttonous Christianity. No, it is like a impoverished Christianity, literal poverty, where no one they've heard about Jesus, they've had this crazy experience where they're like, hey, I think this is the right thing I need to follow, and then now they're losing everything. People are abandoning them. They've lost their homes. They're living in new lands. That's the people he's talking to. So imagine, put yourself in their situation. It would probably be pretty confusing, right? Like, let's say I took you and you woke up in Idaho with your parents and your friends abandoning you. You have no source of income. You have no home, and everyone is against you. How would that feel? Probably not great. So for those people, they're like, God, how am I going to live my life from this point forward? And he's like, first of all, it's okay you're going through a hard time, and also it's okay if you don't have it all figured out, because we now serve a God. You serve a God who is generous with his wisdom. Now, here's the tricky part with that. Here's the thing that is confusing. Sometimes you've got to seek wisdom for a real long time. Like a real long time. There are things that I felt like I was trying to figure out at 18 and 19, and I still now, as a 31-year-old, like, have questions about, like, I'm not 100% sure on. And there are some things that it took me years to figure out, and a lot of times I had the question facing the situation, I went through the situation, and then it wasn't until like 3 years later, while I'm like just, I don't know, mowing the yard, sitting around watching TV, and it was like light bulb went off, and it was like, oh, that's what God was trying to teach me. That's what God was trying to do. Oh, that's okay. Now I see. Because here's the thing. We would like for God to just be Google. We would like to type in our question and be like, God, how do I fit? And we want God to spit it out and tell it to us. Maybe it's not audibly. Maybe it's not through a text message. Maybe it's through the postal service. I don't know. We just expect God to give it to. But that's not how God works. And so when James is saying, hey, we serve a generous God, don't think that God is an easy God. Because here's the deal. We don't serve an easy God. We serve a generous, loving, kind, gracious, merciful God. But God is not easy. He's not easy to understand, because if you understood it, if you had his wisdom, there would be no need for God, because you would be God. So we don't serve an easy God. And there's a part to life, man, let me just tell you, there's a part to life where you just got to experience it. You've got to actually go through the motions of living and going through the experience so that you can you have the choice of either, all right, do I choose God or myself? Well, I'm going to choose myself here. And you go through it and you're like, well, crap, that all went to the bad place in a handbasket real quick. Like I didn't, whatever. And so we don't serve an easy God. We serve a generous God. He's not an easy God. Now, I'm going to go to this next piece here. It's in verse 6. It says, but let him ask in faith with no doubting, for the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea that is driven and tossed by the wind. Doubting is not in itself a bad thing. It's okay to have doubts. It really is. Doubts are super normal. We all have doubts. I have doubts. The problem is not the doubts. The problem is not what do you doubt. The problem is, what are you doing with those doubts? What he's saying, he's not looking to these people who, remember, James is literally raised with Jesus. He knows the things of God. His distant cousin was also John the Baptist. He knows him. He knows all these people. He saw all the crazy things. He saw Jesus come back, all those. He's not looking to these people and saying, you got to have it all figured out. Don't you ever have a doubt for 1 second. No, what he's saying is, he's like, hey, you've got doubts, all right. Now who are you going to go to about those doubts? Because what you can't do, you can't go to both. You can't go to both God and yourself, or God and the world. You have to make a choice. Who are you going to go to with your doubts? In verses 12 through 15, he says, blessed is the man who remains steadfast under trial, for when he has stood the test, he'll receive the crown of life, which God has promised to those who love him. Let no one say when he is tempted, I'm being tempted by God, for God cannot be tempted with evil, and he himself tempts no one. But each person is tempted when he is lured and enticed by his own desire. Then desire, when it has conceived, gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is fully grown, brings forth death. So God isn't using your temptation to sin or these doubts as a way to test you. Sin and temptation and doubts aren't from God. They actually have nothing to do with God. They have everything to do with you. The reason I'm tempted to do something, my temptation, that's my temptation. It's not, how many of you ever, something bad happened, you're like, God, why did you let this happen? Why did you let this happen? I think about that, Kobe Bryant and his daughter passed away this past Sunday morning in a super, tragic helicopter accident. It was super tragic. And it's been really interesting to see, the general public kind of grieve Kobe. And I think what the extra sting is his daughter losing her life. That's just unbelievably sad. And I hear these people in these interviews, some of these famous people, and they're like, you're like, God, why does this happen? That in itself is a question of doubt, right? I don't understand this, so I'm going to look to God and be like, God, I think you should have done something here. Why didn't you intervene? The question of why does bad things happen. The question of why bad things happen has nothing to do, it doesn't stem from God. It stems from our own lack of understanding. When you're tempted to sin, it has nothing to do with God's like, I'm gonna test them real good. It's gonna be like an SAT test. Let's see if you're a good enough Christian. Bam, temptation. Check A, B, or C. What are you gonna do? D, all the above. That's not from God, man. That's from you. The temptation should show us what is it inside of me that is so opposite of the things of God, that wants these things that are not godly, or to do things that aren't godly. So, real quick, it's not a bad thing to go through trials, temptations, or having doubts. God's going to provide wisdom to us if we seek it out, but you can't look to God and the world at the same time. You can't go between both. God doesn't just give us exactly what we want right when we want it. So so sometimes you just got to sit with your doubt and sit with this idea of endure the temptation sometimes. Because God will give you wisdom, but he was not going to always do it right in your own timing. A stable faith is one that always looks to God no matter what. Look, homie, everything you have gone through, someone else has gone through it at the same time. It doesn't make it any worse. It doesn't make it less impactful to you. But you can get through it. You can get through it with the help of God. All right? All right. I want to do this last little bit of chapter 1 because I feel like it is so important. It's so important. I don't want to pass it up. It's in James. It's 22 through 25. It says, "But be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. For if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like a man who looks intently at his natural face in a mirror. For he looks at himself and goes away and at once forgets what he was like. But the one who looks into the perfect law, the law of liberty, and perseveres, being no hearer who forgets, but a doer who acts, he will be blessed in his doing." Some of you might be confused by this because you might remember a little verse that says you're saved through faith alone. You're not saved by your works. You're saved through faith. That's true. That in itself is true. Our works, the things we do for God, the good things we do for God, that's not what saves us. You are saved through faith. What James is trying to say here is, great that you're a follower of Jesus. Now, does your life actually show it? Does it actually show it? Because here's the truth, man. Anyone can come in here and listen in church, but then go and then do whatever you wanted. God, I don't believe God is literally going to strike you down with a lightning bolt. I don't think that's going to happen. You're not going to be like, you sinner, blow up your car or something. It's not going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. You can do that. Here's the inverse side. You can also go on missions trips. You can go serve at a food bank. You can go pick up trash beside the road. You can have 1 million community service hours, but it does not mean you have done that for unselfish reasons or as an act of love towards God. What James is saying here is, you now believe in Jesus? Awesome. Act like it. Act like it. From the very get-go, he said, hey, you going through hard stuff? Okay. You having some doubts? Okay. God's going to be with you. But don't just read this. Don't just read my letters. Don't just look to the Bible. No. Let it transform you. Because we've got a bunch of Christians out there now that don't act nowhere like Christ. We got a bunch of politicians out there that want to pretend that they're Christians and use our faith as a way to gain more votes, and that is, let me tell you right now, I am 100% against that. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat because I do not worship a political party. But people out there will use your faith as a way to manipulate you. But if your faith doesn't say, yo, that's not like God, this is like God, then what is the purpose of your faith? If you don't leave here a changed person, if you can't interact with people with love and kindness, if you can't prevent yourself from gossiping, if you can't prevent yourself from fooling around with your boyfriend or girlfriend, if you can't prevent yourself from doing drugs and drinking when you're not supposed to, if you can't prevent yourself from avoiding those temptations, then what is the point of your faith? What's the point? This thing is about being different. And it's not about a bunch of rules. That people outside are like, I don't like Christianity. It's got a bunch of rules. It's just all about what I can't do. That's not what it's about. It's saying these things are sins because they will destroy you. They will destroy you, and you will find no peace. You will find no purpose. There is no love outside of the will of God. And James is saying, if you want that, do you want purpose? Do you want peace in your life? Do you want to feel a love that transcends any human love you could ever imagine, a type of grace that you can't even give yourself, but you need? That's following God. It's here. It's yours. But now it's time to change. Bow your heads. Bow your heads, close your eyes. I'm about to head into small groups, but I just want to give you guys just a second. Within James 1, he says, you can't live for God and the world, and you must take what you learn and live it out. If you want this to be short, it's something you can remember. It's look to God, live out his love. Look to God, live out his love. No one looking around, no one's eyes are open, everyone's heads down, eyes closed. How many of you would say, just raising your hand, would say, I am going through a really tough time and I need God's wisdom now? How many of you would say that? Yep. Yeah. Good. Put your hands down. Thank you. If you say, Luke, I have been following God for a long time, but I feel like I constantly mess up, and I really don't even know why I'm following God anymore. But I know that there's something here, but I just need to be different. If that's you, let me see your hand. Yeah. I want to pray for you tonight. God, you saw every single hand raised. I pray that every student, as they face these trials, that they would be reminded, that the Holy Spirit would remind them to look to you. And then I pray that every single person that has experienced temptations, that they wouldn't concede to those temptations, but they would move past those temptations. I pray that they would have victory in their own lives, a victory that shows the transforming power of your love and your grace. Be with us tonight, God. In your name I pray. Amen. All right. Hey, if you want to sign up for the high school small group on a